Namaste. I have been asked to write on the subject, Savitri is the message. All else is a preparation. These are Mother's words. I had been reading Savitri for many years, since 1961, in fact. I had received a copy of the Odyssey by Nikos Kazantzakis, the longest poem translated into English, about 1/3 longer than Savitri. Savitri, however, is the longest epic poem written in English. And it is often said that Sri Aurobindo didn't write in English, he wrote English. After reading the entire work of Kazantzakis, with its hundreds of magnificent images of the sun and his beautiful language, I was given my first copy of Savitri, if I remember correctly, from A.B. Purani, who also gave me his book, Savitri, An Approach and a Study. After my first reading of Savitri, I put the Odyssey away forever, along with the works of Dante, Milton, Virgil, and Goethe. Savitri for me was the ultimate, and no other works in epic poetry came even close. Yet my understanding of Savitri was limited, and many years would pass before it began to come directly into my psychic being without the mind's intervention. When Mother invited me to come to Auroville in 1969, saying, "I feel you can do something there," I carried Savitri with me as my most precious gift. In 1970, Mother gave me permission to read Savitri at the Matrimandya Workers' Camp and in the Matrimandya Nursery each week. I read it for nearly 12 years. Savitri had become for me a way of life and yoga, my sadhana. When I met Huta, we became close friends, and Mother wrote to me and asked me if I would photograph Huta's paintings. Here are Mother's letters. Richard, if it is possible for you to keep either one day a week or certain hours a day to do the work of Savitri, I would be very happy, because I know that you can make a success of it. See how you can manage and let me know for the final arrangement. Love and blessings, Mother. I then wrote to Mother, the following dates are arranged for the work on Savitri. Thursday, 4/2/71, test roll. After receipt of the test roll, I will work every Sunday afternoon until the work is completed. Howard asks for your grace and guidance so the work may progress steadily at the nursery. I too pray that I may do the very best possible, and am deeply grateful for all you have given. At thy feet, Richard. At that time I was Richard. Mother writes, "It is all right. Love and blessings." Years would pass as I continued reading Savitri. My wife, Mary Helen, developed ovarian cancer, and I was given the clear direction to stay with her through all the years of her pain and struggle, to offer all her being to Sri Aurobindo and Mother. One of our last works was to create a lexicon of Savitri, and we chose from the following lines of Savitri the title, Lexicon of an Infinite Mind. Here are the lines. Or here the first lexicon of an infinite mind, translating the language of eternal bliss. In those days, in the year 2000, there were still not many computers available to search words. So we had to put them all in a Word document and continually add new words each time we reread Savitri. One day, our dear friend Madan Lal Himatsinka gave us a copy of the Concordance, a listing of all the words in Savitri by Meera Jyoti and her partner. This was an additional help, although there was still much work to be done. Many of the terms in Savitri are almost pure direct Vedic references, and we found Purani's book an excellent beginning. Of course, we inevitably missed some words, and greater minds will perhaps one day expand on our initial lexicon. In all our studies of Savitri to that date, we found many terms and phrases unique to the world. Words defined by Sri Aurobindo in terms of his integral yoga. This necessitated our going through all his works and those of the Mother to give the lexicon the fullness of depth of this transformative epic. We therefore began a second work, supplement to the Lexicon of an Infinite Mind, in which we used our interviews from the past with questions on terms in Savitri, and their replies from Nalini Kantagupta, Amal Kiran, a very thorough and often brilliant explanation of terms, Madhav Pandit, Alok Pandey, Jhumur Bhattacharya, and others. During the past decade, I began a series, Explorations in Savitri, and invited Dr. Alok Pandey to share his deep knowledge of Savitri. To date, we have completed 177 episodes, going through Savitri page by page. In addition, I am sharing insights on Savitri through the writings of Sri Aurobindo each week on Savitri Sunday, hosted by Vladimir Yatsenko. Then too, I have 20 or 21 people with whom I read Savitri weekly, and 2 with whom I read Savitri daily, and share the little I have learned with them. Here are some insights I can share on Savitri to conclude this brief talk. The first is Narad on 3 lines in Savitri. Each day of my convalescence from open heart surgery, Shally, my beloved daughter, reads Savitri to me. It is the greatest blessing one could have, for she reads with great sincerity and humility, simply and clearly. Today, I would like to share an experience given to me from above on 3 extraordinary lines. Of course, all adjectives such as brilliant, majestic, etc., are insufficient mental approximations. For Savitri has been written from a plane so far above mind that our attempts at using adjectives fall woefully short. Here is the passage. There is a purpose in each stumble and fall. Nature's most careless lolling is a pose, preparing some forward step, some deep result. Ingenious notes plugged into a motive score, these million discords dot the harmonious theme of the evolution's huge orchestral dance. A motif is a theme that may occur frequently or occasionally, or is heard throughout a composition. Merriam-Webster gives the following definition. In works of art, a motif is an important and noticeable element or feature that typically appears throughout the work. It can relate to the theme, or it can be the dominant or central idea itself. So we have the motived score, a theme that runs through evolution, but ingenious notes are plugged into it, and the dance of evolution's harmonious theme is dotted with millions of discords. Ingenious notes plugged into a motive score, these million discords dot the harmonious theme of the evolution's huge orchestral dance. The next one is To Cathedral Light. In Book 10, the Book of the Double Twilight, Canto 3, The Debate of Love and Death, we have this extraordinarily beautiful mantric passage of how this grand creation rose, and then the magical line, in night's bare session to cathedral light. Note here that Sri Aurobindo capitalized both night and light. Nolini once told me that when Sri Aurobindo wanted to emphasize the essence of something, the truth of it, he would often capitalize the word. So we study the line above, and then marvelously we note that Sri Aurobindo uses cathedral as a verb. This was the aim, this the supernal law, nature's allotted task when beauty drenched in dim mist waters of inconscient sleep, out of the void this grand creation rose. For this the spirit came into the abyss and charged with its power matter's unknowing force. In night's bare session to cathedral light, in death's realm repatriate immortality. And again, another passage that has come to me. One of the most succinct lines in Savitri, I am sure, has been written about by other sadhaks who have a far greater knowledge than I. Yet I am guided to write what has come to me, continuing my life's devotion to Sri Aurobindo's magnum opus. For me, and I believe many, the greatest poem ever written. In Book 9, Canto 2, he writes, I am, I love, I see, I act, I will. In this line, spare and powerful, yet containing the world in its meaning, Savitri answers to death. I am. Savitri knows well who she is, for the Divine Mother has entered into her. How few on this earth, since man appeared, could say, I am, knowing with the supreme knowledge who they are and why they came. Since Savitri is fully conscious, not only of who she is, but why she has taken birth and what her mission is on earth, only she can follow the words, I am, with I love. For she has incarnated the divine love in her human body in order to show us the way. And it is only the divine love that has the power to transform this world from a field of pain and suffering and sorrow and death, and to change this earthly life to a divine life. Love in her was wider than the universe. Savitri, Book 1, Canto 2. To bring the divine love and beauty and ananda into the world is indeed the whole crown and essence of our yoga. Sri Aurobindo. Divine love is again not something ethereal, cold, and far, but a love absolutely intense, intimate, and full of unity, closeness, and rapture, using all the nature for its expression. Sri Aurobindo. The self-born force that is Savitri has also the divine vision. I see, Trikaladristi, the power to see past, present, and future. Savitri sees all the past, aware that the Divine Mother has been on earth, carrying the evolution forward since the symbol dawn of this divinely chosen planet. Following these three statements, with which she confronts death, she then says, I act. The action of the Divine Mother on earth, embodied in Savitri, not only has the power to confront death, but to defeat him, ushering in the new world. And lastly, she says, I will. The action of the divine will on earth and in the cosmos as well holds the meaning of our existence. We have two very salient messages in the language of the flowers revealed to us by Mother. The divine will acting in the subconscient, Mother's comment, the rare moments when the divine asserts himself visibly, and the divine will acting in the inconscient, Mother's comment, is all powerful even when we are not aware of it. Savitri embodies the divine will, and there are many passages in the epic that reveal that will to us. Here are three from Savitri, Book 1, Canto 2. A point she had reached where life must be in vain, or in her unborn element awake, her will must cancel her body's destiny. Again, ardent was her self-poised, unstumbling will. And again, her single will opposed the cosmic rule. When we were reading Savitri, cover to cover more than 8 times, Mary Helen's reading of Savitri had progressed so beautifully. For me, it had been much like watching a flower open, petal by petal. So deep and flowing had her recitation of the lines become. There are nights when my thoughts wander, and I have to pull back the mind and immerse myself in the mantric sounds. But on other nights, I feel the power of line after line wash over me, enter me, and the mind is awed, the heart moved, and the soul immersed in beauty and light. Savitri is the lever and the key to the future poetry. Behold, at noon, leaving this house of clay, I wandered in far-off eternities, yet still a captive in her golden hands, I tread your little hillock called green earth, and in the moments of your transient sun, live glad among the busy works of men. Contemplate for a moment this wondrous reply in 6 lines of Satyavan to his father's gentle scolding of Savitri. At noon, leaving this house of clay, for in the epic his death in the forest takes place at noon, not a departure of an early morning soul, or one who leaves enfolded in the dark rooms of night, but at a time when the sun is at its most brilliant, showering the earth with light. Satyavan, as Sri Aurobindo writes, is the soul carrying the truth of being within itself, but descended into the grip of death and ignorance. Descended into the grip of death and ignorance, the divine realized soul does not become ignorance, but descends into death, and then is saved by Savitri, the Divine Mother. After leaving his body, this house of clay, in quotes, and wandering in far-off eternities, in quotes, all the while a captive in Savitri's golden hands, in quotes, he returns and replies to his father, I tread your little hillock called green earth. For the soul, released from the grip of death and ignorance, after traveling in far-off eternities, where we cannot even hazard a guess, returning to earth, a joyous captive of the Divine Mother, the earth appears to be nothing more than a green hillock, and yet Satyavan lives glad in the moments of a sun that is transient among the busy works of men. As Sri Aurobindo once wrote to Dilip Kumar Roy, I paraphrase, the earth is a conscious being, and the world is only the form it takes to manifest. This statement of the Avatar, predating the Gaia theory by many years and far surpassing it in its infinite scope, promises an earth returned to beauty, to manifest, unknown to man, an inconceivable perfection. I once wrote to Mother with a question about what would happen to plants and flowers in the new creation. Her reply filled me with joy and gratitude, for she said that the flowers would be among the first to change, be transformed, because their entire life is an aspiration for light. Imagine the beauty to come with flowers brilliant with the divine light, colors such as never seen before, fragrances that can transform suffering and sorrow into a life free of pain and filled with joy. Mother said we can't say more until the supramental is fully established. But this little hillock, divinely ordained for the manifestation of the life divine, must be nourished, protected, felt, and ultimately realized as a conscious being. And through the sincerity, prayer, and efforts of souls attuned to her infinite possibility of perfection, saved from the destruction and devastation man has wreaked upon her. Namaste.